Chris Williams, Chris Hassel. Two guys named Chris. Presented by Fareway Meat and Grocery. From the Channel Seed Studios, this is Iowa Everywhere.
Channel Seed. Seedsmanship at work.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Two Guys Named Chris. It is Tuesday, the 14th of November, a rare Tuesday show. Chris was doing some traveling. We'll get into all that. We are presented, as always, by our friends at Fareway Meat and Grocery in the Channel Seed Studios. My name is Chris Williams. He is Chris Hassel. Who the hell has a wedding on a Sunday?
It's what you got to do during the fall, Williams. I mean, you can't do it on a college football Saturday, right?
I have a lot of respect for this man.
Yeah. So we do it on, if it was on Saturday, I wouldn't have been able to go. It's crazy how it worked out. This wedding was always going to be in College Station.
Seriously?
It just so worked out.
Oh, I didn't realize this wedding was in College Station.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just so worked out that I was right there, firing both coaches. Both coaches fired the day after we called the game. There he is. There's my boy. John Green, finally married at age 39
His
to
name's
a
John Green?
28-year-old. Married a 28-year-old.
John Deere
Good for
Green.
him.
Yeah, that's my buddy.
You both have green ties.
Yep.
Boy, that's a risky proposition, marrying that 28-year-old. She's got a
you
lot
think
more
so?
energy than he does. That poor bastard. He's going to be 50, and he's just wanting to take a nap.
Get this. He thought that her parents were 49, okay? So that would mean they had her at 19, and she has a brother that's 3 years older. So I was like, John, there's no way they had her at 19. There's no way they had her brother at 16. And he's like, oh, you know what? Maybe they're 59 or 69. It ends in a 9.
Very nice.
But it was a good time. Very good time. The game sucked, but Kyle Field's awesome. So I'm glad it worked out that way. And I'm in my bedroom right now because there's still
construction going on.
Yeah, they're painting in there, and so whatever. I see you still have your pink eye get up on.
It's the weirdest thing. So, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I'm totally fine. Wake up this morning, it's back. So I got to go to the doctor. I'm going to go to the doctor today.
You need to get this figured out because I'm not going to see you at all. If you have pink eye, there's no way that I'm going to
I know
put
what's
myself
wrong.
in contact with you this weekend.
I had these antibiotic drops and I ran out, and I was sure it's not contagious now because I took the drops and stuff, so everything's fine. But God damn it.
Take your glasses off and put your eye right
No,
up
I'm not
against
doing
the camera.
We got to talk about Spencer Petras and being in the portal.
You wanted to do an emergency pod yesterday when that broke.
Well, like, it's really not news to Iowa because he wasn't going to be their quarterback again. But, like, in my mind, Spencer Petras was just this. He's just hanging around, finishing his degree, and then he was going to go be a doctor or whatever he was going to do.
We discussed that he had eligibility left.
I knew that.
We talked about this.
I just thought that you people, you Iowa fans, had completely broken the man and that he didn't want to play anymore. I mean, think about playing for that offense in front of your fan base is booing him all the time. People like you constantly bringing him down. I thought he was just done. And then all of a sudden he's in the portal. I'm anxious to see where he ends up.
Me too. I'd love to see a package deal. Petras and Brian Ferentz, you go somewhere and go off. Get out of Kirk Ferentz's shadow. Get out of the framework of what Kirk allows and see what can happen. Wouldn't you love to see that?
I think it'd be phenomenal. Let's
go.
They're going to end up at like Bowling Green.
Putting up like
Tuesday
500
nights.
yards of offense. See,
I am
I do
anxious
wonder
to, what
like
is the,
how much that offense has scarred his reputation.
Oh, it's shattered it. It hasn't scarred it. It's shattered it.
So who is going to take a chance on a Spencer Petras?
There's just not a lot of programs running offenses that a quarterback with his skill set is.
That's true.
Needed. Like watch these mid-major games, these group of 5 games on Tuesday and Wednesday night. I mean, most of them have, guys who looked like they were playing running back in high school. Running around.
Look, I mean, the places that he could go that would make the most sense would be teams that are in the Big Ten West. Yeah. Those are the teams that run that kind of offense.
For now.
Yeah.
So
he's not going to be a high major quarterback.
What happened? What do you think was the biggest thing that led to his downfall? Like, he had some good seasons, right?
It was the offense.
Look, he was never great. I would argue that he was never that good. Relative to what we're seeing now, though, from the offense, it does look great. But I never, even in that COVID year, I was never like, oh wow, see, Spencer Petras is a really good quarterback. Spencer Petras is really humming here. I never thought, but then he went completely downhill. I think I don't know if it was so much as he got in his own head. The Ferentz offense just gets in your head. Every quarterback that Iowa has had has regressed. If you're in that offense for several years, you regress. Some more than others, and he was one of them. But I think also the offensive line got a lot worse, and he just didn't have a chance because he can't move. With that offensive line, as bad as they were, he could not move. So he had no chance.
The best case scenario for him is that some MAC school is in desperate need of a quarterback and they scoop him up. He's not going Power 5. And I don't think he can play like in the South because it's just such a different game. They don't want quarterbacks like that. His best case scenario is like Buffalo really needs a quarterback, or you know what I mean, a school like that maybe a
because
more
he's
traditional
probably
cold weather.
If he wants to do this again, he's got to be wanting to go somewhere where he's actually going to get to play, right? He's not going to go somewhere to be a backup.
That, and if you talk to these guys, I say this with Iowa State basketball a lot, so you don't have to pay the mid-majors as much when they transfer up because it's like, oh, they get charter jets and they get better dorms and they get better. That's all like getting a raise for them. When you've been a Big Ten player for 4 or 5 years, whatever Petras has been, and all of a sudden you're going to go to the MAC, you're not going to do – it's like going down to the minor leagues if you've been playing in the majors. You don't want to do that if you're going to be a third-string quarterback, especially what is he going to be, like 23, 24?
Well, he's already been a professional, too. He's getting paid by Iowa this season, correct?
I have no idea. Probably, I would guess.
Ben Wink says he originally committed to Oregon State. There's no, I mean, DJ Uiagalelei, he is in his, does he have any eligibility left? I don't know. But Oregon State's a top 10 team right now.
Well, and they have different coaches. Like he's not going to, he's not, no.
Well, Petras, technically, wasn't he was at least a 3-star, maybe a 4-star in some cases coming out of high school. He had a big arm. West Coast kid.
Maybe he'll go to like San Jose State or somewhere like that.
That's kind of what I thought. He'll go back to the West Coast and do a smaller
I had forgotten
school.
he was a West
Cal
Coast
Poly
guy.
or something.
Yeah, something like that would make a lot of sense.
I'm really interested. I'm glad he's doing it. I'm really interested to see what he can do.
I hope he goes and has success.
Take the handcuffs off, take the restraints off that, and see what you can do. Because there's one common thread throughout all this madness, and it's Kirk Ferentz. And I'm not saying Kirk Ferentz is a horrible coach or anything like that. He just has a philosophy, as you say, that scheme, and it just does not work with a quarterback like that. You know who it did work with? Brad Banks, a guy who could move around.
And that was so long ago. The game hadn't evolved.
Right.
You know, like that offense seemed like wide open at the time.
Right.
You know, like now it's just a different deal. Anyways, we are presented by Fareway Meat and Grocery in the Channel Seed Studios. Iowa's offense, just an explosion of offense.
I could not believe it. I really
Deacon
couldn't.
Hill.
I was convinced this game was going to end 6-0. I thought that before the game, and I thought that during the game. What it was is 6-0 late third quarter, something like that, and then all of a sudden things start clicking. And I got scared because I thought the under was the lock of the millennium, as did you.
Mm-hmm.
And had
4-0
they
on
not,
my locks last week, by the way. If you're not listening to that
how
podcast,
many?
you should.
4-0?
Yeah, 4-0 last week.
Nice.
I haven't had a losing week in like 7 weeks. So you guys, I'm just
killing
telling you right now.
Hey, I won Dave Z's pool
rolling.
this week.
I know, I saw that. Congrats. That's a nice little financial. So you can buy the bourbon on Friday night then.
You got all the free bourbon in the world.
No, well,
from Steeple Ridge.
I'll have that camper loaded with Steeple Ridge, baby.
But all those people in our comments last week that took the alternate unders.
Oh God, they got screwed.
Poor bastard who had the alternate under of like 17.
You want a really fun thing to do with these Iowa games, though? And I did this, and I about broke even because they
You're
scored
obsessed
too much.
with this. The live unders.
Guys, it's a blast. Every 5 minutes into the game, go and put another $5 on the under. It's like stocks. It's like dollar cost averaging. And most of the time, you're going to end up really. I about broke even because my biggest bet was on the under at 28.5 or whatever it was. But like it's great because if Iowa scores on that first possession, then it bounces up and you get more money down. Because it'll be then the number's like 33. But like that's when Ferentz will just sit on the damn ball and not do anything. I don't know. What do you think about Iowa's offense going into next week, though? Because Illinois is no slouch. I mean, let's not make them out to be Michigan. But this is a team that'll be ready for Iowa, that plays pretty good defense. Are you a believer that they have turned some sort of a corner, or do you think that maybe Rutgers was kind of beaten down? I don't know. What was your read on it?
I fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, shame on me. Fool me 4 times, shame on me. God damn it, I'm not going to be fooled a 5th time. I'm not going to buy it until I see it back-to-back weeks. I loved it. I do think Deacon Hill is playing better. Like, there is something to be said about how the guy just didn't play for years. Did not play. He's finally getting a little bit of that rust off. They're finally getting it to Mr. Emergency Pod, 4-star.
Yeah, about goddamn time, Caleb Brown.
Yeah.
Get him on the freaking field. Let number 3 cook, man. He's your best player.
It's all about number 3 on defense and on offense.
Just let him go. And that's really freaking confusing, too, by the way. I was listening. I was coming back.
Fans were confused
when
they saw him get that first.
Buddy Boy and Podolak. They had no clue.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in the first half. I had to go to this thing in Ames, and I was coming back down to watch the Iowa game. And just disarray on the Hawkeye Radio Network on if it was Caleb Brown or if it was Cooper DeJean.
It's really tough, and they look a lot alike in the jersey too.
Yeah.
So, but
we gotta get that kid a new number.
Give credit to the TV play-by-play guy. He was all over it. Because the fans were starting to go Coop, and he said, "Nope, that is not Cooper DeJean. That's Caleb Brown back to wearing number 3 this week." So what makes it difficult, and the reason he switched, obviously, is because they had Cooper DeJean playing offense. You can't have 2 number 3s out there at the same time. So you can't have Caleb Brown and Cooper DeJean out there at the same time if Cooper's playing offense. So he had to switch numbers, and it is confusing. That's the thing. It's horrible for a play-by-play guy, I'm telling you, and a color guy. A lot of times you get it on special teams. You get these double numbers, and it makes it really difficult on the announcers and, as we saw last week, even the fans. Because it's hard to tell. You're sitting in your seat. You might be a couple hundred yards away, and you just see number 3. You can't tell if that's DeJean or Brown. But look, I give him credit. They're starting to use him a little bit more, and give him credit too. He stuck it out. Like, man, it'd be really hard if I'm that guy to just basically give up. Like, what kind of mistake did I make coming here? Didn't touch the ball for how many weeks? And now finally he's cooking.
He was dropping them.
Yeah, which is understandable when you never get the ball.
You never get the ball, and now Deacon Hill's just throwing these fastballs at you, 6 yards away. So this is my favorite part of this game. Let's go to our friends at Circa. Iowa, they're 3.5-point favorite. This was as of last night. I don't know if it's moved. But the number on this game via Circa is 30.5, and nobody's even batting an eye at it. Like a year ago, oh my God!
Yeah.
These Iowa games have gotten so low. It seems high to us now. It's like when you're coming to Iowa this weekend, it's going to be like 58 degrees, and we're all going to be in T-shirts, and you're going to just think it's freaking freezing.
Yeah, what's old Amber Alexander saying about the weather on
Looks
Saturday?
Good. Looks real good.
Does it really? Because
yeah,
the last time Van Wink last week,
50s.
he was like, "Yeah, Hassel, the weather's looking good. Upper 40s and rain."
No,
What?
no
That's
rain.
not good.
No rain, and like 58 degrees was the high. So that's
You know
great.
what? I'll take it as
You
long
can't
as it's not
beat that.
super windy. Like,
Oh, yeah.
please get that wind tunnel shut down.
No,
Been warning the crew about the wind there, Jack Trice.
You're missing out. Today's high is 69.
Really?
Yeah, I'm gonna do the old Christmas lights today.
Hey, Van
Get on
Wink,
up
what does it
there
say
on the-
for wind there on Saturday? 7 miles an hour?
Yeah, that's nothing.
It's fine. I'll
The
take it.
name's Iowa. That's nothing.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Balmy,
Hey, that's a win.
Balmy 32.
Van Wink's going to be in the booth with me.
Ooh, there's a little snowflake there.
Van Wink is already asking me where his check is at.
Statty Van
Said, I
Winkle.
thought I was getting paid for this. I haven't even seen a check yet.
Steve said I should give you bad info in the booth on Saturday.
Yeah, you
just to
better
make
be
look
on it,
like
Van
crap.
Wink. Because you're my stats and my spotter. Like, you're going to have to correct me. Because you got this double number BS.
I'm glad
I got
Matt's
you.
doing it.
So I've already seen Texas. Like, I had Texas at Alabama, so I'm pretty good with them. I actually know Texas maybe a little bit more than I know Iowa State because I've seen them in person.
I got you.
Is that
So-
line up to 11 now? No, it opened
that's
at
at
11.
open at 11,
When,
yeah.
when did it open at 11? Before the
Here's some-
season?
So I did a bunch of deep diving yesterday. I had my daughter, and I couldn't do meetings or anything, so I spent a lot of time on Pro Football Focus. Here's a great stat for you, Hassel, for your broadcast.
Okay, I'm
And
going to write this
this is-
down.
Iowa State, I've got them returning anywhere from 18 to 20 starters for next year's team. From this year's team. And that kind of depends. The reason I put 18 to 20, because it's a little bit loose. It's like, is this guy considered a starter because of injury? Like guys who have started games, right? 18 to 20. Just to show you how young this team actually is. So they're going to lose TJ Tampa, which is obviously a big loss at cornerback, and then Gary Vaughn, who's a starting linebacker. And after that, everybody is supposed to be back. Now, of course, the portal is a thing, and they'll have to deal with that in the offseason. But
Sure.
what you're expecting, it's really I'm really excited, Chris. And I've been kind of tooting this horn going back to the summer, but I think in this new league, if Campbell's there with that staff and they've got all this continuity, they've recruited really well, which we're seeing right now. We're kind of seeing the fruits of that labor with these young guys coming up. I'm really bullish on Iowa State in the new league. I think
you know
that they
what?
can
You don't-
be really, really
You don't
good.
have to look ahead yet. What are you doing looking ahead?
Well,
You've got all this out
You're
there
right,
this
but
season.
Chris, you know me. I'm more of a builder. Like I'm always looking ahead. I'm always looking 5 years down the road. It's just how I'm wired. I know everything you say is correct, but I don't know. It was in that BYU game, and I don't think they're very good, but Iowa State did what a good team should do to them.
Man,
bad team and just kick the shit out of them, and that's what they did.
Holy hell!
And I was, it was like the fourth quarter, and they're starting to put some other guys in, and like there's this wide receiver that they absolutely love. His name's Benny Nguye. True freshman, hasn't played much, and he got a catch, and I was like, and from J.J. Cole, and I'm like, oh, holy shit, I forgot about that guy. They got a lot of really good young talent, and it's all coming to fruition. It's been fun. That was staying up until 2:30 in the morning doing post game was totally worth it when you win at 45-13.
Ryan wants to know if you think Cole might enter the portal because of how great Becht has been.
I don't know. I feel like it would be a little bit of a rush, Ryan, and I don't know. I don't know.
Is he's only a year behind Becht, right?
Yeah. JJ is a true freshman, and Becht is a redshirt freshman.
Okay.
And then they actually have this kid from Southeast Polk who's playing in the championship game this Friday, coming in next year, and he's really good.
Connor Moberly.
Yeah, he's really, really good. So there's going to be a little bit of a logjam there with those three guys. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't like speculating with portals because it's just I don't know what that kid's thinking and his family, but it's certainly something to think about. But the same with Rocco Becht. You telling me that there's not going to be teams coming and throwing money at him, like that'll absolutely happen this year. Another little stat for you with this Texas game coming up. So I was thinking to myself, Chris, that these opposing teams have been getting more and more pressure on Iowa State just the last couple 3-4 weeks. And Rocco Becht, this is from Pro Football Focus. I did all the calculating. When he is not being when the line is taking care of him this year, he's completing 72% of his passes and only has one interception. That's how accurate. Pressured? Yeah, when he's not under pressure. He's thrown 7 interceptions on the year, so 6 out of the 7 have come when he's, scrambling and that type of a deal. But it shows how accurate he is and how good of a job he's doing and kind of doing the Brock Purdy 49ers thing and just distributing the football. He's just been fantastic the last 4 or 5 weeks.
I've been trying to track down Big 12 scenarios, and there's a lot of confusion out there because this could end up in, 3, 4, 5-way tie. If Iowa State wins out, are they in?
No. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I've done all this as well. There's a really good website out there that will do it for you. I'll find it and send it to you, Chris. From what I understand, Iowa State wins out. Oklahoma has to lose a game too. Unless, like Texas would lose out or Kansas State would lose out or, something that you wouldn't expect would happen.
Pull up the standings, Van Wink, the Big 12 standings, because if Iowa State wins out, it would at the most be a 3-way tie. Iowa State, Texas, and what? Oklahoma or Oklahoma State?
Well, it depends on if Oklahoma and Oklahoma State win.
I'm just saying at worst, like worst case scenario for Iowa State. Because right now, let me make this bigger because it's hard to see. Where'd it go, Van Wink? There it is. All right, Iowa State wins out. That would include a victory over Kansas State, so they'd be knocked out. So it could be a 4-way tie, right? If Iowa State wins out, it could be Iowa State, Texas, Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma, all with 2 losses, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So they've beaten 2 of those other 3 teams. But that's not necessarily going to be the tiebreaker.
No, because the stupid big leagues. This is why these big leagues suck.
Mm-hmm. So they would need Oklahoma to lose or Oklahoma State?
Yes. That's exactly it.
So I did the same thing. I kind of looked, and the best way Iowa State has of getting in is that the 4 teams at 7-2, right? The way I looked at it was, okay, you look at the head-to-head, right? So if Iowa State beats Texas, they would be above Texas, right, at 7-2, right? I have that right?
I don't think that's how you do it with a 4-way tie.
But if Texas loses Iowa State and then wins their next game against Tech, they'd both be 7-2. Mm-hmm. So you look at the head-to-head first, and then from what I understand from the Big 12's website is the next thing you look at is the record of all those teams against each other. So Iowa State would be 2-1 because they beat Oklahoma State and beat Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would possibly get them in if they beat Texas and every other team goes 7-2.
Cody's right here, and this is how I understood it too. This is a good point. It goes down to the most common opponent after that head-to-head, which would be Kansas. And that's where Iowa State would be in trouble. But basically, root for Iowa State and root against the Oklahoma teams is the simplest way to
Who do
clarify.
Oklahoma and Oklahoma State play the rest of the season?
Oklahoma has dogs.
Oh,
They
boy.
probably
Okay, so they're not going to lose.
BYU and TCU. And both of those teams have shitty schedules the rest of the way.
But what if
So-
it's a three-way tie between Iowa State, Texas, and Oklahoma?
That's what I'm saying, I think, is this number 2 here, and this was from the Big 12 website. That's the second criteria in a tiebreaker is win percentage against the next highest placed common opponent in the standings based on record in all games played within the conference.
Did Texas and Oklahoma both play Oklahoma State?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So then if it's Oklahoma
Well, wait a
State,
minute. I don't know if Oklahoma State did. I don't know.
obviously Oklahoma State beat Oklahoma. It's really confusing. Like there's a lot of people that are trying to figure this out. Like,
These big leagues suck.
yeah.
I hate it.
And it's going to get even worse.
Yeah, this is stupid.
And we're being told in the comments Texas did not play Oklahoma
Yeah,
State, so
they
that's
didn't.
not a common opponent, and that's part of the problem.
The common opponent is Kansas, I believe.
Well, it's the next highest. If Kansas loses, they
Yeah,
start
that's
falling
true.
down.
The whole thing sucks.
It does.
I miss my 10-team league.
Because to me, like if you end up in a four-way tie and you're 2-1 against those other teams, how are you not in, right? Like common sense would say, oh, you should be in because you win the tiebreaker over Oklahoma State and you'd win the tiebreaker over Texas. But one of those other teams might be able to say the same thing. And then it
Kansas.
goes to a different tiebreaker.
Kansas plays Kansas State this weekend, so I don't see Kansas winning that one at this point without Bean.
No, I think Kansas is in trouble. I think they're going to start falling down.
Well, they lost their quarterback, so
Yep. Well, they've lost
They're-
both of them.
yeah, they're
Yeah,
down to a third-string guy.
But bottom line is Iowa State is in the running
Yes.
for the Big 12 championship game. They have a chance to really have some extremely meaningful games here late November, which is wild.
Yeah, and if I would have told you before the year Iowa State's going to be bowl eligible, yet they're going to lose to Iowa and Ohio, like the chances of that would have been like next to nothing.
Wouldn't have believed it.
Because you thought like they at the very least have to go 2-1 in November or in September. Anyways, I want to thank our friends at Terraplex Ag. If you're a farmer out there getting into the winter months, going to make a big investment in your farm, remember our friends at Terraplex, these badass drones that can really help you with your spraying. Or you get a teeny tiny little drone and just take badass pictures of your crops as well. Terraplex Ag, they are phenomenal people. We got to know them a little bit a couple weeks ago. Actually got to fly a couple of these bad boys outside of Jack Trice Stadium. They are located right here in the great state of Iowa. Terraplex Ag. Appreciate their sponsorship of what they're doing here with us on Iowa Everywhere. We're going to get into some basketball. Let's do our bigger, better, bolder from Kelderman Manufacturing.
Bigger, better, bolder. Powered by Kelderman Manufacturing.
You just stealing my lines now?
Well, you didn't step on me.
That's the first time Williams wasn't just totally cut off by Van
I wasn't
Wink.
ready for it.
Shout out to our buddies down there at Kelderman Manufacturing in Oskaloosa. Remember them for your laser cutting needs this winter. Engineers out there. Hassel, I'll let you go first. Who are you nominating this week?
I'm going to go, I feel like I've maybe done this before, but I'm going to go with the Kinnick fans because each time I see a game like this, I'm just stunned at how that crowd can affect a game. Like I tweeted and it's tongue in cheek, but you'll get my point. The Kinnick crowd is worth more points at times than Iowa's offense in games. The way they affect things. The false start penalties. And look, this is a crowd that you don't get to see a lot. Like, you have to find different things to cheer for. Kinnick fans have to find different things to cheer for than most fan bases do. You're cheering for false start penalties. You're cheering for punts. You're cheering for balls being downed inside the 5-yard line. You're cheering for field goals, for safeties. Like, it's different. You're not cheering for the big 80-yard plays because you don't get those. And they know that going into these games, and they don't care. They still find ways to affect the game. They're still filling up the stadium. That's really impressive.
I feel you watching those Iowa State basketball teams the last 2 years when you're winning games in the 40s and 50s. Mm-hmm. Like, another stop. It's different. Mm-hmm. I get it, yeah. Shout out to those, especially it's cold. Yeah, good for them. Good nominee. I'm going to go with the guy, the offensive coordinators always get shit on. I'm putting my guy Nate Scheelhaase in this week at Iowa State. First-year offensive coordinator. If you look at their stats, ever since they made the pretty big moves after the Ohio game, Iowa State has, one of the top 4 offenses in the entire Big 12. And he's doing it with freshmen across the board. I thought, albeit against a bad BYU defense, I know this, but I thought the game he called on Saturday night was one of the best that I have seen from an Iowa State offensive coordinator in terms of creativity. BYU was bringing the house early, and I'm telling you, like these defenses have figured some stuff out on Iowa State's offense to get pressure on the quarterback. If you remember early in the year, nobody was getting pressure on Iowa State. Now they are, and Scheelhaase was an absolute wizard out there. These off-timing screen plays, I thought he was brilliant. I think this guy in the next 3 years, if he wants to be Chris, will be a head coach. Maybe even next year. I think this guy's really
Kirk
sharp.
Ferentz comes calling.
I can't see Nate making that jump. But ironically, his old team, Illinois, where Nate was the quarterback, is coming to Kinnick Stadium this week. I just think he's a superstar. You want to ask me right now, if Matt Campbell were ever to leave, who would you put first in there to replace him? This would be my guy. I think he's really bright, and I thought he called a phenomenal game Saturday night. So Nate Scheelhaase is mine, all with a freshman quarterback, right? Like he's done a really good job this year.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Maddie, what about you?
Adam Sandler was in town in Des Moines yesterday with our friends at the Iowa Events Center at Wells Fargo and stopped by Drake practice beforehand. That was pretty cool. What are these pants he's wearing, though?
Yeah, what in that? How do you even dribble between your legs with those things?
Is that his style? Is he just
those are like MC
pants?
Hammer pants.
The White Castle burger.
That's exactly
shirt.
what I would picture not Nate Scheelhaase, Adam Sandler showing up wearing, though. Isn't it?
Scruffy, messed up hair, like he rolled out of bed.
He,
yes.
Did
I
you
hear
guys
he's
watch?
like actually a decent basketball player.
Did you watch that movie on Netflix where he's like the scout?
No, I didn't watch that one.
It's totally worth your time. It's really good. And I don't even like movies. I don't watch movies very often.
Hustle?
That movie was fantastic. I don't even know what it's called, but it was
Hustle.
a really... Hustle, yeah.
Van Wink's telling you what it's called, and you're like, I don't even know what it's called. Hustle.
My neighbor went to the show. I got to get a review from him. I haven't heard
I think
how it went.
Intern Aiden
though,
was there, too.
Question,
cool.
like, do these 18 and 19-year-olds know who Adam Sandler is?
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. He's a megastar.
I know he's a star, but I'm trying to think of, like, what's he done the last
They
10
probably
years?
know him from Hustle.
Hustle or what's the other one where people were just screaming at each other the whole movie with Kevin Garnett was in it. It was about jewels, like stolen diamonds or something. He was like a degenerate gambler, and he ran a diamond shop. You haven't seen that movie? It got like great reviews.
Uncut Gems.
Yes, Uncut Gems. There you go.
I hadn't seen that one.
That was cool, though, seeing Sandman.
Yeah, the the Iowa Event Center too. Will promo for us starting a new show. We started it last week. All access. Matt's going to host it a bunch. I'm going to help in certain areas as well, but we're bringing that to Iowa everywhere. Stretching our legs a little bit more of the Des Moines entertainment, not just what they're doing there, but it's going to be all across the state of Iowa. Looking forward to that. We're also launching a new show this week. We're going to call it Making Mims. It's the new Jordan Bohannon show. That starts on Wednesday with his co-host, Adam Peterson. And
is that the priest? Is he the priest that you were telling me about?
Yeah, he's the priest. And then
is he?
I'm interviewing today for CW Pod. I'm fascinated by everything going on with the Iowa High School Athletic Association and the network. There's a lawsuit happening. We've got state football happening. So Chris Cuellar from the Iowa High School Athletic Association is going to come in and sit down with me and answer some questions about all that stuff. So we got all that along with our normal programming coming up for you guys this week here on Iowa Everywhere. Let's do a little basketball. Big one tonight, Hassel. Iowa is at Creighton.
What is going on with the game time? It starts at 10 o'clock my time.
Does it really?
10 o'clock Eastern.
Holy
What am
mackerel.
I going to do? I'm in bed.
Well, I guess you're going to have to stay up.
I don't know, man. Stay up for Iowa men's basketball as a 12-point dog. I mean, I think I'm going to try.
A lot of basketball on tonight. Kansas, Kentucky is at 8:30 on ESPN too.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
I might
this
have
is
to
that
go
week
downstairs.
where it starts ramping
I think it's because
up.
there's just some big games tonight.
Yeah,
Marquette,
this is when they do
Illinois,
the,
Duke, Michigan State. So that's probably what happened.
Do you remember the old days? They did the marathon, and those games are on at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
ESPN would do that.
Yeah, there was a hoops. That's right. To kick things off. I think I probably will stay up because I am interested to see what this team looks like. I do not care what they look like against, whoever the hell they played those first couple of games. Watch some highlights. I don't care. I know you kind of get into that with Iowa State, and you can kind of pick some things out that you like to see, but it doesn't matter.
I'm sick.
I want to see
not normal.
How they look against a legitimately good team. And no, I don't expect them to win. I just want to see, can they compete? Like, are they able to make this a game in the second half against a team that some people have in the Final Four? It's not fair to expect them to give Creighton a great battle.
Can I make a point for Iowa?
Sure.
That I don't think they'll win tonight, but I'm very familiar with Creighton's roster.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously familiar with Iowa's roster. Creighton will be considerably better in March than they are now. Most teams are like that.
Can't you argue the same thing about Iowa?
Yes,
that they
but
should be
I'm
better
saying
in March too?
Is absolutely. Well, what I'm saying is going into tonight, I think this Iowa group has probably played a lot more basketball together than this Creighton group, because they don't do the portal that much. They don't move guys around. And Creighton, their whole team is portal guys. So maybe you got a shot at this one. Maybe that continuity pays off for Iowa. Talent-wise, you're in a different hemisphere. Creighton's exponentially more talented than Iowa. But remember that Creighton team last year lost a lot of games early. And then, I was sitting at Circa watching them in the Sweet 16. So we got that coming up.
It's good to see him playing a team with a pulse. There's just way too many. There's just way too many of these games that no one gives a shit about. That's why 4,000 people are showing up at Carver Hawkeye to see him play Southwestern Technical College.
Iowa State men are 3-0. They haven't beaten anybody, but man, I will give them credit where it's due. I mean, Hassel, they're beating these teams by 30. And they're still playing just relentless defense, diving for loose balls. I think they're going to be really good.
Almost made it into the poll this week.
Oh, really? I didn't even notice.
I think they were right. I think they were 26th.
Yeah, they haven't done anything to prove anything, but I'm just telling you, I've been courtside for 2 of the 3 games, and they are so much more talented than they were the last 2 years specifically than they were last year, I think. I mean, the difference of, like, you'd watch those games, and if Gabe Kalsher isn't on or Caleb Grill has a bad game, it's like, oh, shit, we're going to be in the 40s or 50s. And now,
oh, God,
Grambling's
up next. Jesus, TJ. What is this?
It's bad. And then it finally becomes real. You get
then the Thanksgiving tournament.
Thanksgiving tournament, they're going to play VCU first, and then it's like Boise State and somebody, and then they'll play a top 15 team, assuming they make it to the championship. That would be Texas A&M or your Florida Atlantic Owls are in that tournament.
Oh.
Yep. Oh. So that's who they would play on the other end of that bracket. And then they go to DePaul, they get Iowa, and then Big 12 players shortly after that.
Okay, then we start ramping up. And you're going to be calling that Thanksgiving tournament?
Yes, I'll be in Orlando. So we're going to have a weird...
You're going to spend Thanksgiving in Orlando?
Yeah.
Is your wife coming with you?
Nope, just me.
Thanksgiving all alone. Just
I always
sad turkey leg.
I do it every year.
Sitting there with your pink eye and a turkey leg.
I haven't... The only years I'm ever home for Thanksgiving is Maui years. Because John and Eric... Because those are in the middle of the week, so they fly out to Hawaii and call those games. But I'm always on the road Thanksgiving. I don't even remember the last time I've been home.
Williams, we've got a big decision to make. I just got a text from the boss at Learfield. We've got 2 options this week. Or not this week, but for the last week of the season.
What do you got? Can I help you?
You can have some input. We can do Kentucky-Louisville, which... Louisville probably going to be 10-1, ACC championship game, top 10 team, if they beat Miami this week. Or the last Apple Cup, Washington State at Washington.
Oh, God.
It's a lot. I mean, it's a lot longer flight. Got to go to Seattle again.
Now, if that game was in Pullman, I would be all about it.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. Like, that would be... Now, Washington State has been really bad lately, though. I think they've lost like 5 straight games.
And let me tip you off here. I'll call it right now. I don't think Washington gets out of Corvallis with the win this week.
I don't think so either. Oregon State's favored in that game.
Yeah, I think Oregon State's going to beat them. So I would do the Louisville-Kentucky game.
Would you really? Wow, I'm surprised you picked that.
Well, I just don't think Washington State's they're dead on arrival.
They've fallen apart. Yeah, they've fallen apart.
And if Washington loses,
they're no longer playoff viable. But they might. I don't know if they've clinched a spot in the Pac-12 championship game just yet. They may have though, because who's behind Oregon? USC.
So I always do this. That sucks that I get you at the work. I've done this Orlando tournament. I've been in Orlando a couple times over Thanksgiving, and it's always with Florida State. And I found this sports bar in Orlando that's a Florida State game watch that I always go to.
Oh.
It's fun. Yeah, that's like a different level of hate. They really hate Florida. Like those Florida State fans just despise.
Oh yeah,
Florida. I didn't realize Florida's like the uppity and Miami's the private school down. Like Florida State, they're kind of like seen as like the rednecks in Florida.
Florida State's kind of like Iowa State.
Yeah, that's the vibe I catch when I'm around.
And Miami's
these people.
like that's the tough school to get into. Miami is the school that the parents want their kids going to. Like if you're a really smart kid and the family's got some money, you're probably going to Miami. If not, we'll send you up there to Tallahassee. You don't up there to Tallahassee.
Those FSU game watches, and it's usually just me. Like I'm not with anybody, and I just kind of blend in there, and they're all doing the tomahawk chop, and it's fun.
Jeez.
It's a good time.
Iowa
women, were you surprised they're not the number 1 team in the country? South Carolina, number 1.
So I was at first. Yes, I was at first, but that's because I didn't know that South Carolina, even after they opened up with that blowout win against Notre Dame, I think it was, they then played another top 15 team in Maryland and beat them by like 40.
Yeah.
So as soon as I went and looked to see who they played, that makes sense. Yeah, I would put South Carolina number 1. I would. A lot of people were upset because I think they were in the same boat. They didn't know what South Carolina had done. It's not just that they won both games against top 15 teams. It's the way they did it. They scored 100 plus in both games and just smoked them. So I have no problem with South Carolina jumping Iowa.
Okay. What, Maddie, can you pull up the Iowa women's schedule? Do they have any tests coming up, Chris, that you know of? Or, well, maybe we'll take a look at that. Illinois head coach Brad Underwood says he wants to add more Big Ten games in the future, with the conference adding USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington next year. This is getting these big leagues, Chris. The non-conference is going to look vastly different in 5 years, isn't it?
It is. So
which I hate. I love non-conference.
He said that because I believe what it's called tonight. It's called the Gavitt Games.
Yeah,
Iowa's playing Creighton, and I guess that's going away for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe because the Big Ten's getting so big. And so Brad Underwood, who I think he's got it right. Like, he says he wants to play better competition. So he wants to add more Big Ten games. But, man, there's already 20 league games. It already feels like the league play is too long.
Big 12 is, I believe, adding 2 more next year as well.
Like, you can't – you're not going to be able to play everybody twice anyway. So why keep making it bigger? Now, if you're going to do one or the other, add more league games or play more cupcakes, I guess I'm taking add more league games. But I would just love to see, like they do more in the women's game, just more of these really interesting tournaments where you're playing teams from other conferences, or just flat-out games where you're playing teams from other conferences. Because these games against cupcakes, they do nothing for fans, unless you're a sicko like you and these Iowa State fans that just get rock hard watching Iowa State beat a team by 40.
On Sunday, Otts put in Jackson Pavlovetsky in the first half for the first time this year, and it was just like, oh, I'm watching a new rotation. He's checking out a new rotation. Oh, my God.
But that only works for so long. Like, are you really excited to see them play? Like, why are you excited to see them play Grambling? What more can you learn in this Grambling game? You've already seen them play 3 teams.
Iowa State is in this weird vibe where they're playing these noon Sunday games. They're horrible. There's not a worse time in the week to play a basketball game.
Iowa State, an Iowa State fan upset about game times.
Oh,
you're kind of taking a page out of the Hawkeye book.
It is
well,
brutal.
We got to walk across that bridge.
Dude, this was on Sunday. Iowa State's playing Idaho State. And Drake, Iowa State women were playing at 2. Iowa UNI women, I believe, played at 2, right around there. And then media's coming back from BYU. There were only 3 of us covering that game on Sunday, and only 2 of us that were regular guys. Another guy, the Register, just sent like a freelance guy because all their people were taken up. But it was brutal. Like, there was just the crowd was still great. Like, Iowa State's crowd was into it, and students weren't. They're not getting up at noon on a Sunday to be there. But it's just, it's a terrible time. You know, you got NFL kicking off. It was just bad.
Yeah.
But
well,
I don't know.
Oh, by the way, Hassel, you know the Texas game, the students are going to be gone. They go on Thanksgiving break when you're here. So don't hate on us too much for our
You can't leave. You cannot. You got Texas coming in for the
I'm
last
with
time. You cannot do that. And if you're Iowa State, if you get wind that this is happening, I think you got to get out ahead of this. Students, if you are leaving, find a way to fill those seats. Even if you have to give the tickets away,
I think
you got to find a way.
I think Aiden was saying Jamie Pollard sent an email to the students saying, "Please don't leave. We need you."
Good. He should. You got to get out in front of this. But if they are going to leave, you can't have some gaping hole.
I would also point out, being that we're old now, and you look back to your college times, at least I do, not you. Chris had a whole different deal. He lived with priests, for God's sake.
I lived with J-Bo's new co-anchor. He was one of the priests at St. Ambrose.
I promise you, if you're a student watching or listening to this, that you'll look back and you'll never remember the extra day that you spent at home during Thanksgiving break. But if Iowa State were to win that game, or there's some sort of, it's going to be great weather. It's not like last year, this game, when it was like 10 degrees, nothing like that. If Iowa State wins the game, you're going to potentially have a lifetime memory that you'll never forget.
Well, and this is going to be the 12-year anniversary of the Oklahoma State upset, and that was a Friday game before Thanksgiving, right, Chris? Yeah.
Yeah, that was a Friday night.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
they got
they had a little extra day before students left.
But if you think this is going to happen, and we got people in the comments saying the whole upper deck is going to be empty in the student section, you got to find a way, if you're Jamie Pollard, to get out ahead of this and fill those seats. I don't know how. Logistically, I don't know how.
Yeah.
Just let people in. Bus up a bunch of kids from Des Moines City schools and just have them sit. Pay them $1. Give them free concessions.
Apparently, I don't know if this is true, but I don't know why Travis on YouTube would lie to us. They opened up a sale of the upper area to the public for
Good.
GA.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Great.
That's always the worst. You realize how important students are to a college athletic event when they're not there.
I notice it a lot more in basketball.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because they're gone for such an important chunk of the season. But I'm going to be honest, I don't notice Kinnick students leaving. There might be a handful of rows at the top that don't get full for the last game of the season. Are you talking like these
Thanksgiving games?
Yeah. But I don't notice gaping holes in the Kinnick student sections. Do Iowa students care more
gaping
about
a lot today?
Yeah, I have. I don't know why. I'm glad you picked up on that.
It's like
you
the
usually don't pick
sixth
up
time
on
you
things.
said gaping.
Oh God, that's funny. Sorry, I need to go to the thesaurus and find a different word for gaping.
The thetherith.
Thetherith.
You need me to bring a thesaurus to the press box?
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, Statty Van Winkle.
Statty Van Winks.
All right, so we covered pretty much everything. Hey, shut up. Sorry, I was getting a call.
Is your doctor calling you about your pink eye?
You had a question about a tweet of mine.
Yes.
That I put out yesterday.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about like garden gnomes? Get the tweet up there. What did you say? You're like, well, when you're a kid, all you care about each day when you wake up is a garden gnome. And then you become an adult and you never think about garden gnomes anymore. And then you have kids and it's garden gnomes all over again. What are you talking about?
Well,
who
Matt,
cares about a gnome?
There becomes a gaping void in your life when you don't think about gnomes.
Who thinks about gnomes?
So, Matt, do you have this when you read to Isley? Where it's like, so I read to Elise every night. We read like 5 books. And I would say like 2 out of every 5 books, there's like a gnome presence in the book.
What?
There's just
That's
gnomes.
Weird. That's
all
weird.
No, don't have that.
You're buying specific gnome themed books.
But I used to think about stuff when I was a kid, like gnomes, and there's some.
There's the world's largest gnome in Ames, right?
Maybe that's why.
Elwood the gnome at Ryman Gardens.
In Williams, didn't you tweet this out at like 7:30 in the morning?
Yeah. It's because Elise was watching Bluey, and it was a gnome episode. And it's just like, God damn, like, I can't escape the gnomes. Gnomes are everywhere. And then I thought about it. It's like, yeah, when I was a kid, I used to think about gnomes a lot. And then it just completely disappeared in my life, and now it's back.
That's weird. I mean, I guess you are like a weird ghost alien guy. You probably thought gnomes were real. The only time I've ever really thought about a gnome was when Travelocity had that gnome on their commercials. The Travelocity gnome. That's it. That was a John Miller type.
But like
weird
another type deal, like
tweet.
endangered species, right? When you're a kid, I'm like, you're worried about the cheetahs. Like, I'm legitimately concerned that the polar bears are all going to die off.
Oh,
and then you become an adult.
I thought you meant you were worried that a cheetah was going to attack you in Shenandoah.
No, but like my daughter, like she comes home from school and she's just like, Dad, I'm really concerned about the endangered species problem we have in Africa right now. And I'm like, honey, they've been talking about that for the last 30 years. Okay? They're fine.
Same thing with the global warming. She comes in, Daddy, I think we need to cut our emissions. Oh, sweetie, they were talking about global warming when I was a kid, too. We're fine. Look how cold it is.
Cammie's going to be just like you, isn't she, William? She's going to fixate on one thing. And
she
obsess
bought...
over.
Did I tell you guys about the book fair, what she bought?
Mm-mm.
So she got a really good report. I gave her my credit card. I said, go buy a few books at the book fair. She's the type of kid you can trust with a credit card, too. She wouldn't overspend. She bought a 4-pack of books, okay? And they all come wrapped together. It goes, what is Bigfoot? What is Atlantis? What do we know about crop circles? This is what my daughter picked out. Like all these and the other one was about the Bermuda Triangle. And I'm like, it's my girl.
You know, I was kind of fascinated by the Bermuda Triangle when I was a kid, too.
Yeah, I mean, all those planes would disappear and stuff like that. It's fascinating. All right, well, Hassel's coming to town Friday.
Yeah, we can talk more about this on Thursday. We're only like 47 hours from our next show.
Yeah, I know. Well,
so we got to save some of this.
We had a bunch of people asking. We're not going to do an event because it's just there's not enough time.
Like I've got so much stuff I have to do with the
not enough
crew.
Yeah.
I wish I could be there longer. I really do.
Well,
maybe I'll just let Van Wink call the game, and I'll just be there as a fan.
Are we finally going to get a podcast shout out on the broadcast? I don't know if that's happened yet.
It has not happened yet. I've thought about it a couple times.
I'll make sure it happens.
Steady Van Winkle.
All right. Well,
do I have ADHD?
Sorry.
Iowa Meat Sweats is asking if I have ADHD.
You probably do, yeah. I think you do have pink eye. I know that. I think pink eye and ADHD, they're kind of the same, in the same ballpark. You're
gonna bet on that Iowa
to pink eye and hoof and mouth. Didn't you have hoof and mouth too?
Gaping.
You've had all kinds of weird diseases.
It's been a gaping time since I've had hoof and mouth.
Remember that cyst you had that just got cut open? You had to have surgery on that thing, on your inner thigh. You took like 3 days off work.
That's not me. I don't know who you're talking about. That was not me.
Cyst.
I didn't have that.
It was oozing.
That was not me. What are you talking about?
It was.
Oh.
Sorry I couldn't do the show yesterday. I was flying back.
Yeah,
but thanks for pull. I'm probably going to be in the bedroom again on Thursday.
No, you did great. Thanks to everybody for watching us live. Thank you for listening on Iowa Everywhere podcast. Please subscribe and follow us on social media. For Chris Hassel, for Matt Van Winkle, have a great week.